Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. And we have an old friend on the podcast. We go way, way back. We found out we're Rotarians, so we got a bunch of things in common. So, Mark, I know you, but tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Good to see you again. Great to catch
Likewise.
up. So my career started way back when, graduated from college in 1980 up in Michigan, and unemployment was real high up there because the automobile industry was in the tank. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 1980, and love the South, love the weather, love just the business. And Atlanta was such on a boom town when I moved here, that there was so much growth and opportunity, and by accident almost, a guy in my church says they're hiring at the World Congress Center. I didn't even know what that was. So as you know, went down there as a job and started in the concessions department and worked my way all the way up into the general manager of the World Congress Center, and then retired after 30 years. And I actually, I don't even know if you know this, Pete, but I opened up the Cobb Galleria Center. I was at the Congress Center, and I froze my retirement because they asked me if I'd come be their assistant general manager during construction of the Cobb Galleria Center. So I went over there in 1992 to 1995, and then after I got it open, the Congress Center called me back to go back downtown, and I went back as the assistant general manager, and then took over as the general manager in 2004. So anyways, had a great career, and now I'm in the consulting business, and I get to work with people I want to, not I have to.
Oh, I love that. We talked a few minutes before we started. I went to my 50th high school reunion, and they said, Pete, when are you retired? And I said, never. And we talked about, that retirement is just kind of a change. You want to do something that still challenges you, have purpose, that you can connect. So when you were retiring and you're thinking, all right, what am I going to do? What was that like? Were you kind of like deciding what kind of pace you wanted in retirement? And what was that you could share with our community?
Yeah, that's a great point, Pete. So what I did was I started, just before I got ready to retire, I started my own consulting company, part-time, of course, and started picking up projects that weren't a lot of time and was not time consuming. And one of my projects was the Lake Point Sports Complex, which you probably know, or I don't know, maybe up there in Cartersville. And it's an amateur sports facility. Well, when I went up there, they had baseball fields and soccer fields and all that kind of stuff. But they then built a building that was an indoor basketball wood floor court that was 100,000 square feet. So they were building this facility, and they never ran an indoor facility. So I consulted for them. But what I found out was real quick that you can consult with people, and you can say, hey, to the best of my knowledge, these are some things I think you need to do. And what was hard for me is I would lay out a plan, and they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And so, that was an adjustment for me. But getting into consulting, it kept my fingers in the business, which I love. And to be honest with you, you hear the whole phrase that if you enjoy what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life. And I am the poster child for that. Because when I fell into the convention business back in the early 80s, I just love it. And it's challenging, and you're fixing problems and you're fixing things. And I still do it today because I consult with people around the country that run convention centers that I still know very well, because it's a very niche business, and people that do events. And so it's pretty challenging, but it's not the grind and the everyday that you have to do with dealing with HR issues and a budget and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty much, just fixing problems and analyzing what they're doing and how do you make it better.
I love that. What do you think in consulting? I've heard a number of people share that they lay out a plan for the company and they don't implement it. What do you think, in your like knowledge of being in that industry full time now, what makes a company implement it versus one that just likes to say they hired somebody and got some input, but never implemented? What have you seen out there?
Well, I've seen both. I've seen companies that have done the studies and done the work and done, what they think needs to be done, whether it's an outside consultant or bringing somebody in to analyze the analytics of it. But the pain to do something, the pain has to be greater not to do something than to do something. And if the pain is not greater, that, hey, we got to make a change, we got to do something. And the Falcons are kind of in that situation right now where they're like, we got all these moving parts and pieces, but until the pain is greater to do something, they're not going to do it. And it's not just obviously a sports analogy, but it's any company. It could be Coca-Cola, it could be Georgia Pacific, it could be whoever corporate out there. They've got to analyze it. But I think in today's world, analytics is more important, and where people have to really analyze things all the time so that you don't get too far off track, that it's going to cost a lot of money to get back on track. And if you have a company that they have shareholders and they want profits, you got to make sure that your company's kind of staying within the guidelines or the bumper guards so they don't go off track and lose money. And then the next thing you know, people are fired and you start all the process over again.
It's interesting you said that about the Falcons. I was reading a book, but I was half listening to the game that was on Monday night.
Sure.
And they said that they now hired an outside consultant firm to come in and look at the whole organization. Right. And they went back and forth with some dialogue, why a company does this and all that. So I do think since I don't know when they lost to the Patriots, but it seems like since they lost to the Patriots,
2016 or 17.
Was it? Okay. They've just been struggling to get footage and get over the hump. Yeah. So what do you think that first day you actually retired from the World Congress Center, what was that Monday like? Because I've had a lot of discussion with my friends. What was it like to you?
That next Monday was, you wake up and you're like, man, it's a shock. And you're like, wow, I don't have to drive downtown anymore. And that, as you know, from West Cobb County, where we used to live, that was quite of a haul. And that was probably the biggest thing. And after that second cup of coffee and watching the news and all that kind of stuff, what do I do now, kind of thing. But you definitely got to keep your fingers in something, because sitting on a couch watching TV, you get into a big rut real quick, and you just got to move on. You got to keep your mind engaged, and you got to keep your body engaged. You got to keep as they say, keep your body in motion. You got to do that, but also you got to keep your mind in motion. And with me, I did a lot of traveling with 3 or 4 different groups right as I retired, and the traveling got a little bit challenging. And I'm not. I get to the point where I want to spend more time up in the mountains, as I told you, and spending more time with my grandkids and kids and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of challenges still out there. I still like it. I go, as I told you, I consult for 5 boat shows in Florida, and so I still go to those boat shows. But the bottom line is, I'm going to a beautiful area, and I don't really have to, do anything to the day-to-day stuff for them. Yeah. Just kind of the overall thing. But the bottom line is, I still got to keep yourself engaged.
What do you think? When you said like watching TV and you get into that rut, the average person watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls over 2 hours of social media, which is consuming. Consuming. Yeah. How do you stay creative? Because you can always tell when you're talking to people that they're kind of in that creating mode versus the other side? How do you challenge yourself to stay creative?
Well, I'm still very much involved in the industry, and there's this past December or earlier December, I am a 25-year member of the International Association of Exhibits and Events, and that's people that produce events. And so I'm a 25-year member of that group. I'm also an International Association of Exhibits and Events, or Venue Managers Association, IAVM. And I am part of ESCA, Exhibition Service Contractors Association. So I still am very connected to associations that put out association newsletters, documents, and then I get calls from different people from around the country that I have worked with in the past. And again, one project I just got a call from a guy that used to work for me about 20 years ago downtown, and he's now in a college environment where they want to build like a Lake Point sports complex in their city and a hotel on the campus of this university. So just keeping in the association areas and keeping up with what the new trends are, what the new ideas are, that really keeps my mind still engaged in the business and what's on the cutting edge.
Yeah, that is so good. What do you think with AI coming in? It saves us a lot of time. Are you using any AI with your consulting business?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I was never really, really engaged in it until recently. So I started kind of looking at some of that stuff, and I had a couple things I needed to do, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to see what it says. And so you could, as you know, you can transcribe it verbally, or you could do it, electronically, whatever. And I was just amazed at what came back. And I'm like, man, is that ever cool and exciting and new? And I think going forward, it's going to have some, it's going to have some good and bad with it. But from what I've seen so far, for me, it was very, very, very good. I've never been a really good writer, so to speak. So I was not good in those areas. And so when this thing came back on a couple examples of what I could do, I was like shocked. But I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan, but we have to watch it closely so it doesn't get overused.
Yes.
Used in areas that are negative.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said because I think education, higher education, high school, they're all trying to figure out where their lane is on how they use it. I know my partner has an AI agency, and this was about 3 years ago. He would say, Pete, are you using AI? And I said, nah, I don't. I'm just having fun doing podcasts, and I don't want that stuff. But then he just kept after me. I'm like you just said, writing was never my thing. I actually grew up dyslexic, so I flunked English in high school. But here's what happened. When I was putting together my first course, which was 2.5 years ago, I prompted it to give me the structure, the framework.
Yeah.
I about fell out of my chair when it came back. I was going like, what? That would have taken me a year to do that. And here I just put the content to it, but it opened up my eye. I was blown away, just like you shared. I think people have to play with it, try it, do some things with it to see where it can help you with those mundane or things that we struggle with, but we have to get done in what we do.
It's pretty amazing. I got to tell you, and again, I've heard about it and people have talked about it, but it wasn't until probably in the last year and a half that I really used it. And it was just a big, huge eye opener for me.
Yeah. We talked about being Rotarians, and we were chatting about Keith Altabelli because he's in our Rotary.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you traveled internationally to Seoul, Korea.
Correct.
What was that like to go to an international event? with Rotary, and to see that. Would you share that with our community?
Yeah, Rotary is a pretty amazing group, and I think it was 2016 or 2017. I think it was 16 that we hosted at the World Congress Center in Atlanta, the Convention Center, the 100th anniversary of Rotary International. So the year before they were coming to Atlanta, they had asked me to go to Seoul, South Korea, with the host committee and kind of take a look at the convention center and see what they did and how they laid it out with the exhibits and with the ballrooms and the general sessions and all that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I had never been to Seoul, South Korea. Yeah, what a great opportunity. And, of course, the host committee was made up of a lot of folks from around the state or really the country with Rotary, and pretty powerful business leaders that I actually didn't even know were Rotarians. And so that was a great connection for me business-wise in Atlanta area. And but it was just a great group of people. And, I know that there's always projects that they do to raise money for different groups and really for humanity and help humanity in some ways, in many ways. And that's just been a great group of people to be associated with. And I just can't say enough great things about them.
Yeah, I had a gentleman that I met through Kennesaw Mountain High School. I do a mentoring program with Habitudes, and once a month we go over there. One way I meet him, and he was in between jobs. He's IT. And I remember I was unemployed twice, and it wasn't a pleasant experience because you have plenty of time. You don't know when you're going to get something, and so you can only spend so much time on LinkedIn, But he started leaning into serving, and he's now a Rotarian. But he just got a position with Yamaha. But here was what's interesting: his mental journey through, I think it was maybe 4 or 5, 6 months, whatever it was, because he was serving, because he was out there active, he was doing something besides looking for the job on LinkedIn. He was great. And now he's joining, now he's hooked up. So what do you think in your connection up there in Big Canoe, when you were kind of looking around, why did you decide to join Rotary up there?
Well, Rotary, they had been after me for some time up here, and I like the people, I like the group, and they're very business oriented group of people with a cause to raise money and whatnot. And I thought, what better way? Because I'm not full time up here yet, so I'm kind of going back between Atlanta and Big Canoe. But what I liked it is there was already a built-in group of people that I would see whether I'm going to church or I'm going to the clubhouse for dinner or whatever it is. And it was a lot of the Rotarians were part of that group too. So it just reinforced a business relationship, but it also reinforced meeting more people in the community, which I thought was a really, really great thing for me to do, especially moving into a place where I'm not full-time yet. So I love it. And I like the fact that they had a cause that they were helping people, whether one of the causes for the Rotary up here at Big Canoe is to build bunk beds for kids that are don't have a place to stay and they have to stay in somebody's house and they don't really have enough bedrooms, and they build these bunk beds that they give out for free to these to the community around here in Jasper, LJ, Blue Ridge, to some of the families that need that kind of support and help.
That's so good.
And that's only one group. There's other things that we connect with too. There's a women's shelter that's up here that they are very good about, raising money for and whatnot. But that's the other thing. It's for the good and the benefit of the community in which you live.
Ooh, that is so good. You mentioned, because you were always, because when we knew each other, a people person. What would you say to a 21-year-old Mark about the value of relationships? What advice would you give to a 21-year-old?
Well, probably at 21, I wasn't probably the guy I am today, but I had to probably keep your mouth shut and listen more than you talk would be the first thing I would say to myself. But also find out when you do talk to people, learn how to talk to people with respect, and learn how to listen to what their response is. And I do it all the time. I learned it at an early life situation where I would tell my sales department in the convention business, find out something about your customer, because if they like you, they'll find a way to work with you. And when I say that, I mean find out something about them. Say, hey, tell me where'd you go to high school, and where'd you play? Did you play sports, and what kind of sports did you play? And do you have any brothers and sisters? And do where do you do this? When you find out something about somebody, it changes the game, because then it's not a business transaction. It's the business deal. It's, bottom line, it's this X amount of money. It's not that. When you find out something about people personally, and you bring that back up in a conversation, say a month later, 6 months later, whatever, they don't forget, because it's how you made them feel when you talked to them and when you met them.
That's great advice. Being a grandparent, what's your favorite part of being a grandparent that you could share with somebody that's not a grandparent yet that, really lights up your heart?
Well, yeah, that's as you know, it's a great situation. And my grandkids, I love them all to death, and I get to be the fun person, because I'm not raising them like when you and I were raising our kids. We had to be the parent, not their buddy. We had to be the parent. And now I'm at a stage where we get to have fun, and I'm the fun guy. I want to be the fun guy. And it's funny, because I tease both my daughters, which you know, and your daughters know. They come up to the mountains here, and I would say them in the morning. I say, hey, what do you want for breakfast? And they tell me, and one time one of them said, hey, can I have some ice cream? I said, absolutely, and I'm gonna have some too. So my daughter, of course, like, Dad, what are you doing? I said, hey, this is the fun house. We're having fun up here. I don't want to hear arguments. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. We're having fun, and if they want ice cream, I'm having some with them.
That is great. What do they call you?
Papa.
Papa. Okay.
Yeah,
So good. Yeah, I'm after the first of the year, I'm going to have a podcast, Granny and Grandpa podcast. And it's just telling stories like that, because, you know how fun it is. You hear about it, but the stories that people tell, it's just like that. You want to be the fun house. Wow. I mean, that is so good. So what would you say, like, if you were looking out, a couple years, things are changing very rapidly. AI, technology, kids are growing up. It's a little different than it was when we grew up. What advice would you give to, say, a 21-year-old based on everything changing that would help them be more adjusted or adapting to the world now?
I think, Pete, that you got to get involved. I think you have to be you got to get involved where you're having conversations and you're with people. You have to have a conversation in a room, directly next to them, across from them, or whatever, eye to eye, where you can have discussion about whatever their needs are, whatever. If you find yourself where you're in a helpful situation, say, hey, I can help solve these problems. I can help do this. I can help do that. And you can help. You become a very valuable asset to their business or their relationship or whatever it is. And I think join associations. There's all kinds of business associations that are related to what every business you want to go into. Do that. Become involved. You can go to the Atlanta Union Mission downtown, or up at the Must Ministries up there in Cobb. Go deliver food, go work with them, help whatever, build bunk beds like they do up here, Big Canoe for the Rotarians. You got to do all that kind of stuff. You got to get involved, and it's going to take a little bit of initiative to do that. But the more you're involved, the more people will see you. And so when you say something happens, that you get a job and then or a career, and then doesn't work out and you're in the career market again, people will notice you. People will see you. And one of the biggest things you mentioned earlier about, getting on the social media and using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best thing I've ever been associated with in my life because it's free. It's free. And then you start to put LinkedIn messages, as you know I do. That's where you and I reconnected from.
Yep.
And I put stuff up there all the time about, the boat shows and my, other consulting things that I do. And the IAEE, I was down at the aquarium, so I put that on LinkedIn. And the thing is, it's free. It's free stuff, but it keeps you front and center. And it's funny because with a lot of the folks that I know in the convention business that run convention centers around the country, they see something on LinkedIn that I haven't talked to in 5 years, and they'll respond because I put something on LinkedIn and hey, how are you? How's your consulting business? And blah, and we reconnect like you and I did. And it's free.
Yeah, that is great advice. We ran into Graham. This was at the Ritz years ago.
Yeah.
And you know what I took away from that? How personable he was, how connecting he was. And what I teach over at once a month over at Kennesaw Mountain High School.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can see this is second year, not teach, but I just bring in a program called Habitus by John Maxwell. But here I see the kids now aren't connecting like you just talked about. I actually lost a little bit of my temper because they're all goofing off. They're all on their phones, not paying attention. And I said, look, show some respect. I'm coming here and out my time. I could be doing anything. And it was kind of putting those boundaries on. So what do you say? Like, I know you're given that you shared with us about relationships. What other things can you share with our younger people starting out that career that you can maybe dig into a little bit deeper?
Well, I think young people, as much as or anybody, become involved. Take on a cause that you get excited about, and take on whatever that cause is. Like if you want to feed the hungry, or you want to help people go with a clothing drive, or you want to build bunk beds, or you go Habitat for Humanity. Find a cause that you can get excited about and do something. Do something. Do nothing is not an answer at all. Do something, involve other people. One of the other things, Pete, is I think because I played sports in high school and in college, I was able to play some 4 years of college football, but when you play sports or you get involved in sports, you have a connection with people that you may not ever see again or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that helps build that camaraderie in doing something together. And it has served me well because it then helped me to learn to talk to other people, listen to other people, and how do you get people motivated all in the same direction to go do something together and win, as a team. And that has helped me as a professional in my career. I mean, I had a staff of 500 people that I was responsible for. And, you got to get 500 people. Not everybody's on the same wavelength that you are.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out a way to get everybody on the same team. One of the things I used to do was we would go down at noontime and we would have in the cafeteria at the World Congress Center, we have a little area that people could come in and ask us questions, ask the executives, ask me, what are we doing here? What are we doing there? Or, tell us, what's going on. So everybody's kind of in the boat. And one of the things I noticed early on in my career was I was not a guy that would stay in my office 8 hours a day and do paperwork. And I just couldn't do that. I would always get out from my office and I would walk the building, and I always made a point to go see our customer, because our customer is the reason why we're there. And if they're not happy, we're not going to have a long-term customer. And so what I would do is walk up to my customer, hey, how you doing? I'm the general manager, because I'm the guy who signed the contract. and how you doing, and what can we do better? Are we taking care of you? If there's anything I can do, here's my card. Give me a call. And it was my cell phone number. It wasn't just, the general number. But the other thing is, I would walk around and talk to my housekeeper, my parking lot attendant, my engineering guy that's on the exhibit floor, the people that were doing the day-to-day work, the food service people, and say, hey, how are we doing? Are we taking care of the customers? What complaint do you hear from our customers? And our customers are the customers that bring the show, and they're also customers that buy the electricity. They're exhibitors. So we got to listen to those people. And what about the service contractors that's working the building? Are we taking care of them so that they take care of the building? So there's all these different things that come together. You got to ask people what they think and what their thoughts are, and are we taking care of you? That's business 101.
As you know, a gentleman said, like, common sense is not always common practice. And, those are fundamental advice, insights, but we don't sometimes do them. We sit in an office and we isolate and we wonder why they don't come back. What would you say, like, from a standpoint of your personal growth, do you have any book or anything that you could share with our community that has made an impact on your career or even now?
Well, I'm a very spiritual guy in wanting to know more about Christianity and what Christianity has done and helped out people and been close with. But there's a book that Truett Cathy, and I was able to meet Truett Cathy several times at the World Congress Center, because they did a lot of events. They did the football classics, the kickoff games in August. They would do those. Chick-fil-A would sponsor those. And I actually had the great privilege of serving on the Chick-fil-A Bowl committee. So I get to travel for Chick-fil-A and all that kind of stuff. But there's a book that Truett put out, and it was a book that was about mending. If you don't, you can mend fences. But
like, it's better to. I have that book on my back.
It's better to mend fences than mend men or whatever. But I'm telling you, that book by Truett is phenomenal.
Yes,
and it really tells you almost about how to raise your kids, how to raise your family. And I got to tell you, Truett was just a tremendous guy. And Dan Cathy, I got to know Dan Cathy very well too, because I don't know if you know this, but we did. He came to me one time during one of the sporting events, and Dan says, "Hey, I'd like to rent some space from you." And I said, "Well, Dan, that's what we do here. We rent space." He says, "You don't get it. I want to rent it for the next 99 years." I said, "Well, what was that?" Well, you know that they have a Junior Achievement Learning Center that we allowed them to rent or put in the World Congress Center in 5 different schools in the Atlanta area. And Marietta Middle School is one of those school district. And basically 7th and 8th graders will come down there, and they will go to the learning center that we allowed them to put in the building. And they learn how to do business. And I'm telling you, they are learning how to do business as entrepreneurs. And that's been going on, probably the last 10 years. And so that space is incredible. And you go up in that space, they got Publix, they got, Coca-Cola's up there. They got Georgia Pacific. They got all the top business community people involved in that. And it's just an incredible program. But also from that relationship, Dan said, "Hey, we want to put the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, and we want to move it from it was in Indiana. They want to move it to southern Indiana to Atlanta." And so we negotiated a deal to put them in a parking lot that the Congress Center had over on the east side off of Marietta Street, and that's where the College Football Hall of Fame sits now.
Wow!
But you know how it all started? What the story is. It all started because Marshall McCabe, the guy who's the Rotarian over there in Vinings, but Marshall and I got together because he would come in for the for the football games, and he would bring his henny penny cookers and all that kind of stuff in. And Marshall and I developed a good, close working relationship. Well, when my son Grant and Elliot and Katie and Angelo, my son-in-law, when they were on the wrestling team at Kennesaw Mountain, I needed to go buy Chick-fil-A sandwiches for the wrestling meet on Saturday mornings, before the wrestling meet. So I worked out a deal where I would go buy the Chick-fil-A sandwiches from Marshall McCabe, who was the owner-operator over by Cumberland Mall on 41 there. And he'd sell them to me, and then I would resell them at the wrestling meet or match that morning and whatnot. But from that, meeting him and developing a relationship with Marshall, that's how I got to Dan Cathy. And then Dan Cathy brought in the Junior Achievement Learning Center and the College Football Hall of Fame. And it was a business relationship that we continue to have and continue to have to this day.
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah. I was never involved in junior achievement, but I love what they do.
Oh yeah, it's
that is just a tremendous stepping stone to being that business person, entrepreneur, getting out there and learning those basics that are so important for people to grow. I want to be respectful of your time because I know not having on a schedule, but I want you to share, like, how can people get a hold of you? And then I have one final question.
Well, I don't mind putting my email address onto the podcast and allowing people to access me, and really they can call me too. Listen, I always answered my own phone, and I also made sure that I return phone calls within the day or the next day. I'm one of these guys that if you call me, I'm going to call you back. I think that's another respect thing that I was brought up with. But they can call me on my phone or they can call me on my email address. And what I do now is I consult for people that are in the convention trade show world, people that run convention centers around the country, and people that do run events and do events. And I help solve problems for them. That's what I do. So I'm sure someone's got a question about whatever it is business-wise. I'll be happy to help them out and work out.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Solving problems is everything. And if you keep solving problems, you're going to be on the right pathway. What would you say, final question, like what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Well, I would say that, work hard and do what you do. Find out what your passion is. We talked about it earlier. Find out what the passion is, because you got to work for a long, long time, and you need to be happy at what you're doing. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, find another job that is, but don't quit a job until you have another job. A lot of people quit IAS place, I'm out of here, but so work hard, find your passion and work hard. The other thing is, once you get to a position, give back. Hire people or work with people that need help. Someone falls in, they literally fall in the ditch of their disparity or whatever in their life. Help people get back on track. We all needed a helping hand. I go back to this many, many times. I told you about earlier this. I got a job. A guy in my church helped me get a job at the World Congress Center when I didn't know anybody and I didn't know anything about the convention business. And it helped. They helped me, and I have helped other people along the way, and always take someone's call. Always take someone's call and try to help somebody. Give back. That's my number one thing.
That is so good, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would like to ask one favor. I've been trying to get Keith on my podcast. So if you'll reach out to him and say, look, hey, I want you to be on Pete's podcast.
I will make that a number one goal.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I love Keith. He does so much. I mean, he is like so involved in the community, so much part of what you said, giving back.
Yeah, he's quite. Now, also, Keith's daughters went to high school with my daughters and son at Kennesaw Mountain. And his oldest daughter was a scorekeeper on the wrestling team. And my daughter was too. So they all know each other very well. But we'll get Keith on here, I promise.
Well, good. I'll lean on your influence to try to get him, put some pressure on him.
You got it.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing little. So I'd love to invite you back because we want to keep delivering messages like you just shared because it's so important that people give back, build those relationships, and approach business with the mindset that you've shared with our community today. So thank you so much.
Sounds good, Pete. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we connected.
Yes. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, buddy.